Have you ever had an IT tech support person who was trying to explain something to you, but it wasn't getting through because he or she assumed you knew something that you simply didn't know? Not your fault, but the problem was that they thought you knew it and you didn't. This happened to me the other day. My tech support guy for my website was telling me a procedure that he found very easy himself. But because he assumed I knew something, that as a layperson who simply uses the technology rather than a techie who's inside the technology, he wasn't communicating to me enough information to do what I needed to do. And it took me having to remind him, I don't know what you think I know, to get through the problem. Well, a client of ours just recently encountered a similar situation, except it had to do with communicating to a URAC reviewer. And I realized that too often, and I fall into this myself, we assume that the URAC reviewers know what we know. And they don't necessarily know what we know. And it's not because they're uneducated or stupid. It's because we are too close to know all of our assumptions. We're too close to our own policies and procedures, our own technology, to know what our underlying assumptions are about those policies or those technologies or procedures. So it's a very good idea to assume that your reviewer knows nothing about your policies, even about what you mean. So here's an example. Core 3 requires that you show either on your policies and procedures or on your master list of your policies and procedures the approval authority for each policy. We submitted, or my client submitted with our advice, a policy and procedure on policy and procedures that requires that they show approval authority on all the policies and procedures. That policy and procedure had a signature space at the bottom, which is where we were going to put where we put the approval authority. And then we also submitted a master list of policies and procedures. Now, it's not required on the master list of policies and procedures that you have the approval authority there if you've got it on each individual policy, and that was the approach my client took, because it's different for each policy, or each set of policies and procedures, who the approving authority is. What we didn't do is point out with granular specificity that the signature space was the area where approval authority was going to be indicated. So the reviewer wrote back in her response to our submission, no indication, no documentation submitted about approval authority. We thought it was obvious that the signature line at the bottom of each policy was that. It was not obvious to the reviewer. Not her fault. Really, the burden is on us to clarify that. Now, we don't have to change what we do here. We simply have to change how we explain things. So we could do this in one of two ways, or both of these ways. We could highlight, using Adobe's PDF highlight feature, that part of the document, and then have a call-out box that says cites to that particular subsection of Core 3 that requires the approval authority on each P&P, and say this particular piece of this document is where it is. Or we could do it in the citation. In the citation, we would simply write signature line at bottom of page for that particular subsection. We didn't. It was a one-page or a two-page policy, so we didn't think we needed to. But that's an incorrect assumption. We assumed that the reviewer would know that that's where the approval authority would be. She didn't, and so we got dinged on that, even though, by our way of looking at things, the client was compliant with the standard. We can get all upset at the reviewer about, come on, don't you understand what we're doing here? Don't you understand what the signature line at the bottom of the page is for? We could do that, but it doesn't do us much good, and it's rather easy to fix. All we have to do is be hyper-specific in each and every single case about where in the document this subsection of this standard is found. And not just page 2. Page 2, signature line at the bottom. So this is a lesson for all of us, particularly with respect to citations. Do not assume that the reviewer knows what you know about your company and how you do things.